Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried, but what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Hey everybody, this is Brian back with another episode of Grief to Growth, and today with me I have Kim Clark Sharp. She's been with me before. You may remember her from episode 78. If you didn't catch that episode, make sure you go back and look it up. She's a great person to talk to, a great storyteller, and she told a really fascinating near-death experience. I'm going to introduce Kim, and today we're going to talk about angels in particular, though. So Kim is the author of After the Light, The Spiritual Path to Purpose, which was published by William Morrow and Company in 1995. She's the founder of the Seattle IANDS Association of Near-Death Studies, which is the world's oldest and largest support group for near-death experiencers since 1982. She was named one of the 40 most influential people under the age of 40 in the Pacific Northwest in 1987. Kim's also the founder of the Department of Social Work at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. She's a pioneer in the field of critical care social work. She's an international conference and workshop speaker. You may have seen her as a moderator at the IANDS conference recently, which was held online. She's been published in many journals, textbooks, and magazines. Kim's also a consultant to the news and entertainment industry. She's a co-teacher of terminal illness seminar at the School of Medicine, University of Washington. She's done that. She's a clinical assistant professor, and she has a master of social work. So that's quite a bit. But with that, I want to introduce Kimberly Clark Sharp.
Hi. Okay, thanks, Mike. Nice seeing you. Our time is up.
No, that's quite a resume. And like I said, I want to highly recommend anybody that didn't hear your earlier episode to go back and catch that. But if you could just briefly take us through your near-death experience, just kind of give us a background of who you are.
Yeah, I would like to do that. Thank you. And then also add some more layers to your introduction because it just wasn't long enough. And by the way, listeners, I love Brian. So it's very easy for me to be at home in front of my computer monitor. We're talking like, hi, so I'm not in a very, very formal mood around Brian.
Yeah, it's fun.
But you're going to get the sincere, how does that work? The sincere Kim.
Yeah.
My near-death experience was in 1970. And I was in college and I collapsed for reasons that were never fully determined because the volunteer fire department from where my body lay in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, by the way, came with a portable ventilator that was brand new, and they applied it with a seal around my mouth, turned it on, but there were two modes to this portable ventilator. To ventilate, go figure.
Yeah.
And then to the vacuum to extract objects that might be blocking a person's airway. And I had nothing in my throat, but the default was on vacuum. So when they turned it on, I already had been, according to a uniformed nurse who happened to be passing by my body and, waved down by my dad who was with me. She wasn't getting a pulse. She didn't perceive any breath. So whatever oxygen I had left in my body, literally I had the life sucked out of me. It was just, pretty dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And my resuscitation was long, but I was young and they weren't going to give up. My dad, we were just coming out of the Department of Motor Vehicles. So my dad noted the time that we left and then the time that I was admitted to the emergency room of the local trauma center, which was in Kansas City, which was, a ways from where my body lay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an hour and a half. So in that hour and a half, a lot happened.
Yeah.
Again, I was being resuscitated, though. It wasn't like I woke up in the morgue with a toe tag on.
Right.
When rigor mortis starts, I don't care what you say. There's no coming back. So I was still like alive,
Mm-hmm.
but not breathing on my own, even remotely. But the headlines of my near-death experience was I could hear a woman's voice to my left saying, "I'm not getting a pulse. I'm not getting a pulse." And that turned out to be the uniformed nurse. I talked to her. She ignored me. I thought I could be heard. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how quote unquote real my time in that space felt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just gave up and went to another place that I seemed to find or was taken to, I don't know, but I was surrounded by very warm, gray, foggy material. I knew I wasn't alone. I had no anxiety. It felt like the most normal thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was as if, I'm in the waiting bay at a gate of the airport. I got my ticket. I'm just waiting for my suction to be called. It was nothing in terms of anxiety. It felt normal. I couldn't see who I was with because of that dark gray fog. But then a light erupted under me and then just enveloped me and everything that I could see, which brings up the point of how could I see anything? My body had my eyeballs in it.
Mm-hmm.
What was I doing looking at anything?
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't figured that out. I don't get how that works, but I could see just fine, thank you. And this light, which I call God or my creator or Brian for that matter, it doesn't matter because there are no words and then there's all words. But anyway, I was shown in a linear fashion, this light just went on forever, literally. I was shown that, and then also how this light was simultaneously layering on itself. And I somehow knew that the light that was going out in all directions was linear time as we know it, at least. And I don't know if that's Earth time or universe time or what. Dang, I left my watch on my body.
Yeah.
But the layers were dimensions. And at my age, I don't even think I'd heard of, in Kansas, dimensions, like, but I got it. I somehow understood it. And that was also like unending. It was incredible. But the main thing is that this light was all love. It was just a love that even as a parent and a happy wife and a happy person on the planet, I have not been able to give or receive. It was beyond anything. And it was for everybody. I'd like to think that bad guys get theirs in the end, but no, this light, this God loves everyone equally. End of story. And then I was told I had to go back, argued. I'm here to say you can argue with God. You may not win the argument, but you can certainly give it the old college try, which is literally what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I was sent back, and I missed my body by about 3 feet, which ironically is why I flunked that test at the DMV. I couldn't parallel park a car within 3 feet, so they said, come back when you're not sweating in the palm so much,
Yeah.
Give another word. So I thought, here I had the most wonderful experience. And I looked at my body, and I thought, I can't even park myself. But the body that was on the ground was not me, wasn't Kim. My personality, my memories, my attachments even, my sense of self were looking at meat. Just nothing there without my spirit. It was just nothing, just biology. And then I saw a man I didn't recognize bend over and put his mouth against mine. Well, that was mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And so that drew me back into my body, and through him, wink, wink, that was interesting. Yes, I knew everything about the guy.
As you passed through him going into your body.
I passed through him, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad called him the Good Samaritan for the rest of my father's life. He really, and if Good Samaritans can swear like a mule skinner or a sailor, he was both.
Okay.
I mean, according to my father, the air was thick with very naughty words. But I didn't perceive any of that in him. I perceived compassion. And here it just been with the greatest love of all. And of course, I'm going to be drawn to it. I think the physical contact helped, the mouth to mouth, but Man, it was the love he had for me. I was a stranger,
Hmm.
and he loved me.
Hmm.
And as I went through him, I loved him too.
Hmm.
And then, but then I was trapped in a very bad body situation. Um, when I got to the emergency room, my admitting temperature was 86,
Oh,
which,
wow.
is a, and, nice if you're in a pool
Yeah.
swimming around with your kids,
Yeah.
but not, it's pretty cold
Yeah.
internally.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, so I begged for God to come back. I'm sorry, I said I'd give you the short version. This is actually the short version. A
Yeah.
lot happened. I'm
Yeah.
skipping over things.
I know you are. Well, and again, go back to episode 78 if you want to hear the details, which you should.
Oh, thank you, dear. It's nice. I sure like you. But anyway, uh, I begged to be brought back to heaven, to homie home. That's what I called it, homie
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And so again, skipping over stuff, God fortunately showed up again and said, all right, I'm such a whiner, Brian. I mean, I just annoyed God enough. They went, all right, enough. So a window or portal or something opened up to my right. And I was told that if I went through that, I wasn't coming back. That was my border.
Mm.
And so I went, okay, bye. But then I was distracted by a flash of light, and it was the beginning of showing me my future, should I choose to live.
Mm.
And there was a place where mountains met water, which sure wasn't Kansas.
Yeah.
And then that dissolved, and I was heading into heaven, and which is beautiful, by the way. We can talk about that another time, but it was so beautiful. And another flash of light just as I was going through this window, and it was people. It was like a portrait gallery of people that I would significantly interact with if I chose to live, and they had captions underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nothing glorious, no world leaders or celebrities. It was just, best friend, next door neighbor, colleague, mentor, stuff. I didn't know those people. So back to heaven I'm going. And then there was another flash, and it was me being of service. Something that had never occurred to me in my life, to be honest. I wasn't, I just, didn't think about it. And I said, cool. And it turns out, God's a hippie. Cool means yes. Yeah, cool, dude. I was back. And in my opinion, I was back to serve. Because that's when I said cool. And so I've approached my life ever since then as one of service.
Yeah, clearly from your resume, that's what you've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like at this time, why am I even alive? Haven't I checked all the boxes? But there's obviously still more work to be done, and I'm joyfully providing what I can. And this show is an example of that. I want to help people. I want to inspire people. I want to comfort people. I want to inform people. I want to love people.
And you're doing all that. And like I said, I know your near-death experience. It is fascinating. And you just told a very quick version of it. So people can go back and they can get your book also, I guess, to find out more detail. But today we were going to talk about angels. So is this what triggered you starting to see angels?
Yes and no. First, you think I would be prepared for this broadcast, but I'm an off-the-cuff kind of person, and I'm a feeling kind of person. So I don't have the stuff in the can.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's from my heart.
Yeah.
So sorry about the pauses or the fumbling of words.
It's fine.
Moment. Angels. Can I preface this with something?
Sure.
I'm actually a grounded person. I mean, I'm from Kansas, grounded. Went to college at Kansas State University in the middle of the state, grounded. Lutheran, grounded. Married a Seattle firefighter, grounded. He's the only fella I ever wanted to marry, and we're still married after decades and decades, grounded. 3 kids, 2 step kids, 1 birth child. and one baby that didn't make it, which puts me in an odd way in your realm.
Mm-hmm.
But grounded. Social worker, grounded. Advanced degree, grounded. Clinical assistant professor at the University of Washington, taught death and dying for 20 years. All that requires groundedness. All the things I've found it.
Mm-hmm.
I have ground underneath my feet, and yet angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I might add negative energy too, scary things, and way too many dead people. Just, so, but angels, how? So yeah, we'll never know what if I had not had a near-death experience,
Mm-hmm.
would this have opened up to me? But since my near-death experience, I feel like I walk in two worlds, that grounded one, but also one that allows me visions and intuitions and communications that certainly weren't going on before my near-death experience.
Okay.
But what really set it off for me in my memory was the first time I saw angels with my eyeballs.
So you objectively see angels?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Now it's more subjective, but
Okay.
but many years went by of visualizing, eyes on, eyes up here, buddy. I mean, it's like, and I also have to say that when I have ever seen an angel, I stop on a dime. We're talking angels here, for lack of a better word. Well, we'll just say very positive vibes, spiritual, positive, holy, for lack of a better word.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I cannot, to this day, perceive of an angel without pretty much collapsing on the floor, shaking like a leaf, because there's a power that comes with these beings as well that humbles me to the point of utter dysfunction. And fortunately, I've never been in a situation where I was going to endanger myself or others, except for maybe one time when I saw an angel. But I can't, I'm stupefied. So when I talk about these angel encounters, it sounds so glib. In real life, it's not at all. I'm like as shocked as anyone would be, like, to see an angel. So it was about 7.5 years after my near-death experience, after a few years of perceiving, unfortunately, and for who knows why, but what I call negative energy. Some people might say demonic energy, but certainly bad juju. I mean, without a doubt, harmful, scary, terrifying, actually. And I bless those experiences too, though, because I think they led to the angel vision. And also those experiences led to a very powerful sense of myself in terms of dealing with negative energy, which shows up all over the place. And frankly, which politically sometimes is at risk, because I believe in underdog stuff, because I know angels are present. So I want to go support people that are oppressed or depressed. I'm drawn to that because there be angels.
Yeah.
And what can I say? Anyway, I had the unfortunate experience of not chewing my food properly. And that was peanuts. And one of the peanuts didn't fully digest. And as it was exiting my body, she says in the most ladylike fashion, it just tore everything. It was a sharp edge that just ripped through. So I became very ill, septic, had a bunch of surgeries that were not going well. And I thought, I want to go home to mom and dad. And I did, for more surgeries. But I was single and young still, and really needed my parents to look after me for further surgeries, which were ahead of me, and by the way, successful. But I became septic there as well. which means full of bad germs.
Yeah.
And very, very sick. And I was lying on a couch in our family room when a very scary thing was approaching me no one was around. So I don't know if anyone could have seen what I saw or not. But it was a being that scared the snot out of me. And considering where my surgery was, I could use another word, come to think of it.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
And I was petrified. And then all of a sudden I saw movement off to my right and then to my left. And I thought, what? And there were what to this day I call angels. And how I knew there were angels, I don't know, except for those feelings. They completely ignored me, as angels do. And but they came in and formed like a protective barrier between this thing and me. And I mentioned I'm Lutheran. All I could think at that time was the song, I Know That My Redeemer Lives. And I cannot sing, but it was like, I know. And I was so scared. I know that my Redeemer lives. I would just, that's all I could think of. And this being shrunk from it. And these angels, for lack of a better word, were empowered by it. And I watched the whole thing. So then I got stronger about it. I know that my Redeemer lives. And it just seemed to, it was like a prayer in my heart.
Yeah.
Not just a hymn.
Yeah.
It was a prayer. And God heard my prayer. And because I guess maybe because I could perceive this thing, I was also going to perceive the things that were going to protect me from the thing. How's that for a good vocabulary? The thing and the things.
Yeah.
The angels, they were just making an introduction in my life. I have a cheat sheet because I don't want to forget any of my experiences. So here's my cheat sheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knocked off a bunch of my stories before the broadcast. So
how did this negative being appear? Was it demonic? Was it humanoid, or what was it like?
Humanoid. I'd seen it before.
Okay.
So had others. In this case, I live a graced life, Brian, and that my weird experiences are often with others. So I get some validation going. They're not internal. Sometimes they are, sometimes not. And I lived in a house with a roommate, and I had a lot of friends over, and this thing was fully present. You know, it was nastier than I can tell you, and it grew in power, and it seemed to just want me. You know, I felt weak in its presence, and it just wanted to attach itself to me. And I felt like turn me into a bad guy or something instead of a child of God.
Yeah.
But I already knew as a child of God, I already knew I was going to heaven.
Right.
So it's like, in a way, no chance.
Yeah.
Chance. But I was really happy to see what I perceived as angels. And there's a fellow by the name of Howard Storm.
Yeah. But actually was reminded of Howard's story as you were telling yours.
Oh, well, yeah. So he, in his near-death experience, also was surrounded by terrifying, similar creatures that were also after him. You know, why? I don't know. But for either one of us, or for anybody, I don't know why.
Yeah.
He was an atheist. He didn't know how to pray. He didn't know any hymns. So he gave like the Boy Scout oath.
Yeah.
The national anthem. I mean, all kinds of things. But again, the prayer was heard in his heart. Same for me with, you know, I know that my Redeemer lives. It, you know, it's I could have, I believe, said something in Hebrew or in Farsi or in Polynesian dialect of it. You know, it's what comes from within.
Right.
It's not about the words.
Right.
But this thing did not like that hymn, and it sure didn't like the angels. And then when the angels were completely forming a barrier, and by the way, I'm like, which is what I am like all the time nowadays. um, um, I could see them. So I can describe to you how I perceive angels, because it hasn't changed. If
Yeah,
you
yeah, I'd like
want
to
to
hear
know what an
that.
angel looks like,
Yeah.
for me anyway, what an angel looks like, uh, big, huge, ginormous,
Yeah.
but humanoid, human in appearance, kind
Hmm.
of, but not of earthly size at all. Really big sons of guns, and I could see them. They were both visible and invisible. I could see them, but not see them. Um, I could see their faces. I could pick up their intentions. Um, they were not white like we perceive. Here, I have a metaphor. Oh my gosh, I'm going to drink an angel while I'm at it. This is a glass of water.
Hmm.
That's how I see angels. It's like looking through a glass of water. So you can see the shape of the glass,
Oh,
the
I see.
container.
Okay. Okay.
It's distorted, but you can see through it.
Hmm.
So if this glass were an angel, that's what an angel would look like.
So they're translucent, kind of like,
Transparent, wobbly, a lot of motion.
yeah.
Um, and then I guess the space up here above the water would be where I would see their faces,
Hmm.
which were different, were clearer than their bodies. But their bodies had a lot going on, a lot of motion.
Hmm.
And so I guess if I jiggled the water, but I would spill it all over me.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not do that.
And there was a place behind them were those wings. They looked like wings that were tucked in, but I never saw the bird take off,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how much of my culture, American culture, middle class culture, Lutheran culture, college, all those things that make up our perceptions. I don't know the influence on me.
Yeah.
Um, so, were those wings, or was it just all of the motion that I was seeing? And I don't know.
Yeah.
But they looked in their faces. I'm making this point because I've encountered many other angels that had different faces and different intentions, by the way.
Hmm.
But their faces were one of resolve, like calm resolve. And
Okay.
again, absolutely no notice of me whatsoever. It's like they were on a job. They were just on the job. And
So
here
they
they
were just there to protect you. So no communication with you? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I might as well have not been in the room.
Hmm.
Absolutely none. It was like I was just part of the job. That thing was part of the job. I'm not even sure I was part of the job,
Yeah.
but they were there to protect me. And of course, I have jumped the gun many times since then, thinking of people who were protected maybe by this little band of angel. It wasn't little, it was pretty big. And then why are some people protected and others not? And I can go cray cray. Just so I try
Yeah.
not to intellectualize it and just accept it for what it is, with gratitude, I might add.
We'll get back to grief to growth in just a few seconds. Did you know that Brian is an author and a life coach? If you're grieving or know someone who is grieving, his book, Grief to Growth, is a best-selling, easy-to-read book that might help you or someone you know. People work with Brian as a life coach to break through barriers and live their best lives. You can find out more about Brian and what he offers at www.grieftogrowth.com, www.grief2growth.com, or text growth, GROWTH, to 31996. If you'd like to support this podcast, visit www.patreon.com/grief to growth, www.patreon.com grief2growth to make a financial contribution. And now, back to Grief to Growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when the angels first came into my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I recovered from all the sepsis and infections and surgeries and went back to work at Harborview Medical Center, where I spent 10 years. And you mentioned in my intro, I spent pioneering the field of social work and critical care.
Mm-hmm.
And where there are people that are sick and dying in particular, again, there be angels.
Hmm.
So angels became part of my work.
So you would see them when you were working with patients?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Wow. It was amazing. Amazing. They're busy. Again, utterly ignoring me. Could care less. Ready for a story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Story? Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a patient in coronary care, name of Saul. He was a local cardiologist. And as it turns out, the intern on duty was his nephew, who was studying to be a physician.
Okay.
And Saul was admitted, and he was doing fine until he wasn't. He went into cardiac arrest one day, and the nephew was in charge of the resuscitation, which never should have happened, but no one wanted to stop him. And he kept calling for paddles for poor Saul, which is, zap. And, Paul was not going to come back from that. But
Yeah.
the nephew in love was not going to give up. So,
Right. Yeah.
shock after shock after shock. And people were looking at each other and then looking at me as a social worker like, we need to call this. We need to call it. But no one wanted to interrupt a acutely grieving nephew at that time.
Sure.
Then, in front of all of us, Saul, try this at home, people, Saul lying in bed, not having had a heartbeat, zapped repeatedly, sat up in bed without bending his legs, like a puppet would come up, or a doll.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard to do, especially as an older gentleman.
Yeah.
But it's hard for anyone to do if someone's not holding your ankles.
It is,
like
yeah.
Full sit up, like 45-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
And he opened his eyes and a little smile came across his face. And he was looking up like I am. And so I wanted to see what he was looking at. What the heck? And there, coming like from the sky, was a flying wedge of angels. The first time I saw the flying wedge, in it since.
Okay.
But this was the first. And it was as if I had vision that could be, I wasn't impinged at all by a ceiling or walls or multiple floors in a huge hospital setting. I could see through all that and see these angels, and again, like in a wedge, like geese.
So like in a V formation. Yeah, geese, yeah.
Thank you for the words, V formation. Told you, I don't have the stuff in the can. So Brian will now speak for me. And again, ignored. And they came down, and Saul is looking like astonished and happy. And they got to him and his body fell back. And I didn't see the angels anymore, but I knew they had taken Saul. It's like swing low, sweet chariot.
Yeah.
They came and took him away.
Yeah.
And then it was the social worker, yours truly, that went up to the intern and put my hand on his and said, no, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's
so
gone.
That's a shared death experience that you had. You actually,
Oh my gosh. I didn't even, again, you speak for me, Brian. You're better than I am.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah.
Wow. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, I got to go now. I have nothing about that. You're right. Wow. Well, anyway, so the angels again that I see at this time were everywhere. They were all over the hospital. Again, very big, transparent, sometimes hovering, sometimes bedside. I have an example to belie all of that coming up in my head, but and again, always ignoring me. I saw angels in traffic. I want to tell that story. I saw angels in libraries, at music events, all
Wow.
kinds of music. It didn't matter if it was hard rock or gospel.
What are they doing at music events? Just hanging out, or?
Hanging out.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess. I'd never interviewed an angel. So what are you doing here didn't happen. But I have seen angels hanging out. Thank you for the reminder. I was at the University of Washington Medical Center once. It was a medical fair for the community annual event. And I was volunteering in the medical social work booth. And, talking to people, a lot of good energy and all that. We were in a huge atrium-like room. So by atrium, I mean, it just went up in the kind of a glass ceiling, but very tall, no floors above it. And I was just, hanging around when all of a sudden, bonk, there were angels. And again, shocking, they were hovering, not above me, but kind of like above the whole scene. And when I see angels also, it appears they have robes on.
Okay.
They're not nakedy.
Okay.
They're robed, or they have garments of some kind.
Yeah.
But if I had walked over, I could have looked up their robes. It was like that. So they were above my height.
Okay.
They're above all the humans. No one was that tall in that big room. And they were like having a cocktail hour. They were totally on break. And I got that. And I talk about hanging around. They were just like, kind of having a downtime. And they were
So when you say hovering, you mean they weren't like flying with their wings. They were just kind of hovering. Yeah.
Yeah. A clutch of them. Maybe 6 or 7, somewhere in there. And
so you've never
skirts.
Yeah, but you didn't perceive any communication amongst them, or?
Yeah, I did. But again, intuited it. It wasn't verbal at all.
Right.
But I just got the sense that they were on break.
Okay.
Everything's energy. And since my near-death experience, I've become sensitive to energy. Makes for pretty good social work practice because I can read people.
Yeah.
And so I can, I guess, read angels too. And they were totally on a break. So I was like, So I thought, okay, I need some reality here. So I turned and there was a fellow lighting a pipe. And then the booth next to the social work booth was the American Lung Association. And those people behind the booth, like, really came down hard on this guy trying to light a pipe. And so I thought, okay, I'll look at the pipe. I'll look at this drama. Ooh, they're so mad. Oh, I don't blame them. What's he thinking with the pipe? All this stuff going.
Yeah.
Really trying to distract myself. And then I look up again to see the angels are still there. It's like, they didn't go anywhere. So before, when I saw angels, I didn't take my eyes off of them. This time I did. And when I returned my attention to them, they were still there, just hanging out. A PS on that story, the book After the Light became a popular book. I hope it still is. I still get royalty checks. And by the way, I write exactly like I talk. So if you ever read the book, I'll be in your head if you listen to this podcast. So it turns out, flash forward many years later, and I'm approached by a physician who said, I read your book. I was actually in the Himalayas trying to get to Mount Everest. I don't think he ever did, but he brought that book to Nepal and he was reading it and he said, I'm the person that tried to light the pipe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He went into shock. He's in the Himalayas. I'm still in Seattle.
Yeah.
And it was just a shock. And he said, that he thought the angels might have been there for he and his brother, because later that day, his brother died in that hospital.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting? And that's why he was there. He wasn't trying to attend the fair. He was just getting away from it all. And
Yeah.
he
So
was
it makes me wonder if they were there waiting for his brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I've never interviewed an angel, but
Yeah.
if they were just maybe waiting until they get into the wedge shape,
Yeah.
they go get him. But it was incredible meeting that person who was,
It
years
is.
later, who
Yeah.
was lighting the pipe and could fill in some of the angel story.
Yeah.
Um,
You said you've seen them in traffic also?
oh, yeah. Can I tell you my favorite story? I keep asking your permission, like you're going to say no. No, we don't want to hear. Have I not told you this story?
I haven't heard it,
A
no.
5'5" angel?
No.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Brian and able listeners, just go with me on this ride.
Okay.
So, Harborview Medical Center, where I was working and seeing all the angels in the hospital and thereabouts, as I've already shared, is on a big cliff that it's called Harborview because it looks over downtown Seattle to this day, and Puget Sound, and then the Olympic Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And interrupting, though, between the hospital on this elevation and downtown is Interstate 5,
Okay.
the I-5. And it's the only north-south corridor between Vancouver and Mexico. So it holds a lot of traffic in all the states, but in rush hour in Seattle, Seattle's an hourglass-shaped city. We've got water and mountains. There's no way to spread out. So
Mm-hmm.
things below Harborview on I-5 were very compressed because not only were everybody getting off work at about the same time would hit the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bottom line: a lot of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in this traffic, looking at southbound, looking at to the horizon brake lights. There's at that time 3 lanes, and I was in the far right lane, and I thought, I'm never getting home.
Mm-hmm.
It was a traffic jam. It was a parking lot beyond a traffic jam. So I'm sitting there like everyone else, just waiting for traffic to break up. And all of a sudden, to my left, I'm hearing it's honk, 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 and a guy swearing, sticking his head out. This is road rage. But we didn't have that term yet.
Yeah.
But he was honking and swearing at people as if his honks and language was going to move his lane of traffic.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it always says
come
that.
on, dude. Anyway, so, and I'm not a swearing woman. And if you hear me swear, I really, really mean it, by the way. But
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, oh, come on. So I'm going to have to do body language. Now I'm going to back up from the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm in the car, okay,
Mm-hmm.
by myself. I turn to give this driver the stink eye, which is what I learned from my mama and grandma. So I was giving him the stink eye, except that between my stink eye and the driver was an angel. Again, huge, so big. And this was a 2-seater sports car this guy was in. So he was still honking and swearing. And the angel next to him was actually, as if physically contained, was scrunched down because he was so big. If he had sat up straight, I think his head would have been above the roof of the car.
Yeah.
And I really would have freaked out. But I was freaked out enough. So here's Kim. So I'm like this, getting ready to, give him my best mom look. And there's this angel sitting there. So I'm like this, which is how I perceive angels. And the angel, too bad I'm in a chair. The angel was like, just forward, I'm over here going.
Yeah.
Again, the usual ignoring of Kim. So in review, I'm like this.
Right.
And it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Until the moment came. The only time an angel has acknowledged my existence, by the way, was right now. The angel slowly turned his head to me looked me right in the eye and did this.
Hmm.
Like, what can I do? He's my guy. I don't like this any more than anyone else.
Hmm.
It's free will time. This is ridiculous. I admit it. I'm not having any influence on him. His anger and ego are too out of control.
Yeah.
And then the angel turned around and went back to ignoring me and looking straight ahead. And thank goodness we had all that traffic, because that lane moved before mine. And I was still, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So angels, so there's another emotional, so now we have angels who are like guardians,
Mhm.
and we have angels that come to take deceased people. We have angels that hang around waiting for things. We have angels at concerts and in libraries, and now we have angels on I-5.
So do you think that maybe like a spirit guide? I mean, is that different, or do you know?
I think different.
Okay.
I think different, but that's just me. I'm not an expert. I only know my own experiences, but
Yeah.
I love that angel though, because my ego got involved. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, it saw me, it knows me. And then it was gone.
Yeah.
So
Now,
that's
have
my
you seen
favorite
angels
angel story.
around you other than that time they were protecting you from that negative entity? Do you see them
Uh,
active in your life?
yes and no. More I see them on behalf of others.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look at my cheat sheet. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No, it's right here. All right, I wrote these kind of like an order of memory. This wasn't about me, but it was shocking. Again, now, other than the I-5 angel, I have never been acknowledged,
Mhm.
whether it was about me or not.
Hmm.
But I was with a fellow in a terrible storm on the Washington coast, and we were in trouble. We needed some help. And he had a motorcycle, and again, it was a bad coastal storm. And he was going to go get help on his motorcycle and didn't want me on the motorcycle because we didn't know what the roads were like, if trees were down or whatever. And so he was leaving me in this storm on the Washington State Peninsula, which is a wilderness area. And it's like, oh my gosh, he's going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw he was bent over as he let, broom, broom. He gets the motorcycle started, and he starts to go, and he's hunkered down because of the wind and the rain. And hunkered down behind him is an angel. Again, a big angel, but in the same position as if, the rain and wind, that he needed protection from it. But I don't know about genders and angels, but I have perceived male energy, female energy, and just neutral, genderless energy. So when I say him or her in my stories, I kind of get an idea of the energy. So this seemed to have male energy. But anyway, completely holding my friend, bent down. I could see the rain hitting my friend. But when it got to the angel, it went right through. I could see rain going right through its body. And that was a first. Also, like, wow, they're impervious to weather. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And I knew then, though, everything was going to be okay. And that angel would be, I would say, a protective angel. Was there one around me? Not that I saw.
Yeah.
But I did see this, and it brought me great comfort. And it was okay. He came back with help. We got out of there, done deal, at a story, made for a great story. That's it. Then another time, we live above a beach in Seattle called Alki Beach. And once, just on the beach, I saw a guy going along and just kind of kicking rocks and just, beach walk, strolling. But he was strolling with an angel. And that was a shock because it's just a day. This wasn't a hospital or a music venue or a school. It was just a beach walk. This guy had nothing going on,
Yeah.
but walking along. Reminds me of that poem about footsteps, when you're alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're never alone. Here's my bottom line. In my experience, we are never, ever alone on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
We are surrounded by what I've come to call invisibilities. And that's my term for the whole collection of stuff that I'm talking about, which includes angels, but and they have jobs. So then another time in my own house, there's a woman by the name of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Do you know her?
Yes.
Well, she was a good old friend. Actually, she was a mentor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she put me on stage with her many, many times. And we were buds. Well, she was in town and came over for dinner. And so she's at the end of this antique dining room set that my grandparents had that I stole from them when they replaced it, basically. Antique chairs, antique table. And Elizabeth, place of honors at the end. And we're about to eat, and Elizabeth starts disappearing. She's a little thing anyway, where she was. She's deceased now. She's a tiny woman. And I watched her just kind of slowly disappearing. The table's like, what the heck? Well, the chair was breaking and splaying out.
Oh, wow.
But it was enough to attract angels. And all of a sudden, I see her surrounded by angels who are tending to her. Just, again, in protection.
Wow.
So she didn't bump her head. And those were like angels in my home and in my very own residence. And that was mind-blowing. So that was another first. And Elizabeth packed a punch whenever she spoke. And I can assure you, she was never on stage alone. She packed angels, that woman. I don't know if they were attracted to her energy or they were her guides or what. But when I told her about it, she said, well, what do you see? And I said, well, I didn't know it was a test, but it was a test. You're bringing up all kinds of memories for me. I miss Elizabeth, by the way. But anyway, I said, well, I'm looking around and it's easier for me to see angels out of the sides of my eyes. I somehow, if I look directly, they kind of move off to the sides of my eyes again. So I learned in that moment to do what I, to this day, call angel vision. But I if I just sort of let my eyes relax and not really see anything, even if there's something in front of me.
Yeah, go out of focus.
Yeah. Say that again.
Go out of focus.
Yeah, out of focus. Thank you. You're giving me good words. So I just, just go out of focus. Then I could see. So I just did that for the first time deliberately to see an angel. I relaxed my eyes and didn't try to stare at anything. And I said, okay, well, they're really big and they look tough. And they're not white. I can see through them. And they might have wings or not. And they're definitely wearing robes. And did I mention they're big? And did I mention they look rough? They look rough and tough. And she didn't say a thing. She went like that. I thought, well, there goes that friendship. Why did I even say anything? But later I learned, after she had processed it, that's exactly her perception. That she had angel guides and that they were big and they were tough. And then she also said, I know your angel guide. I was like, what? Yeah, by name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
More of a guide, less of an angel. Right. But I said, well, that's got to be one tough angel too. So you asked about what I sense is that I'm surrounded at all times by 13 to 25 angels. It's weird. It's a big pack, but I also think I'm super high maintenance. So, I have this scenario in my head of angels going, oh no, don't send me to the Kim. No, I'll be good. No. So I don't know what I generate that needs that much about me. but I must generate a lot
Hmm.
because it's there, and I can sense those right now. I can
Okay.
sense stuff around you right now because I'm like in that
So
mode.
you sense them, but you don't necessarily see them.
No, the last time I saw an angel, I was pregnant,
Hmm.
and I was at a piano concert. It was over Christmas. I was
Hmm.
with a friend, and all of a sudden, the piano concert began, and there was an angel sitting on the table, like it was going to burst into song in a nightclub, that
Hmm.
kind of thing, like feelings. I mean,
Hmm.
it was just, what's the angel doing on the piano? It's like, what? That I hadn't seen before.
Wow.
So I turned to my friend and went, oh my gosh, there's an angel on the piano. And I could still sense the angel, but I couldn't see with my eyes the
Hmm.
angel. It
Hmm.
was like, what the heck? And that was the last time I ever saw an angel with my eyes. And that's been 30 years.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's because I was about to be a mom for the first time.
Hmm.
And would I be a good parent if I were distracted by seeing angels?
Hmm.
I think not. So I think as long as I'm in mom mode, I don't need to see the angels.
Hmm.
But what was never taken away from me was the perception
Hmm.
of them. So I can perceive them all over the place. I walked in not that long ago to another intensive care unit waiting room where someone I knew husband was dying, and didn't know her well, but I was sent there by the social worker because she was all alone. So I went, sure. And I walked in and then burst out with, oh my gosh, there's 3 angels here. Because again, I'm like, I can't, I can't not react.
Yeah.
And she thought that was related. She leaned into it. She said, what do they look like? And I described what I described you. This one there, one above you. And there's just 3. And she was blown away. Her husband did die. Years passed. She got back to me and said, since then I've been to a number of readers, like
Hmm.
psychic people. And she said, every last one says, you've got 3 angels around you. So
Hmm.
she said, I want to let you know because you were the one who started that. So that was validating. And like anyone, I love to be validated.
Yeah.
Um, but there are times when angels have been around me that I haven't perceived it, but others have,
Okay.
which is also interesting.
Yeah.
One of those times was when the baby that I was trying to deliver didn't make it.
Hmm.
And that's a tough time.
Yeah.
And I was very upset. And in my real time, I was just uncontrollably crying. I just was sobbing. I couldn't, upon hearing, wouldn't be going home with the baby.
Yeah.
A friend of mine in Hawaii called me a few days later. She had no idea I was even pregnant. We just said, this is before cell phones and
Hmm.
FaceTime and
Hmm.
Zoom calls and all that.
Yeah.
And she called me and she said, I had a vision and I've decided to share it with you, even though you're not going to believe me. It's really crazy. But in her vision, she saw me in utter blackness, just completely dark. And I was pretty much prostrate. I was on my knees, but bent over and crying really hard.
Hmm.
And she didn't know why. She just saw that I was very upset in the dark.
Hmm.
And she said, floating down really slowly, one by one, were, she said, definitely like females, but they were angels.
Hmm.
They were like maternal in their vibes, so to speak. And they were floating down with little night lights. And they kept floating down, and they had wings. And they
Hmm.
kept floating down with these soft lights until I was completely buried in them.
Hmm.
And there was just a soft glow coming through their bodies and their wings, she said. She
Hmm.
said, what the heck's going on? And then I told her, and then she went into shock.
Oh, wow.
So it was one time I had no possible way of, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then another time when also I was really upset over a loss. someone else perceived angels around me. My loss was my own health. I had breast cancer. And I had, at that time, 8 to 10 months to live. And, because of my near-death experience, I'm fearless. But again, I was also a mother. And someone else mailed me, again, someone who did not know I had breast cancer, but wrote me a letter with a diagram of angels she saw around me. But she said, it's a funny thing, I couldn't get anything below your chest in the sketch. Something would stop my hand. I could draw the angels, and she did. But again, she didn't know I had breast cancer, but this would not come out of her pen.
Wow.
So, but I also was completely unaware of angels. So then there are times when I have been the angel. And
Okay.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think we're all capable of being angels
Mm-hmm.
in the right circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
One time was, can you stand these stories? Are you still with me?
I'm still with you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I don't even know what our time is or anything. I'm just.
We're getting close.
Okay. Well, 2 more stories.
Okay.
I had gotten gas in town. I used to be young, go figure.
Yeah, we all were.
Yeah. Better hair. Young and pretty cute. I'd been getting gas, at a gas station in Seattle by Harborview.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled out of the gas station, and this guy ran up and said, you have a flat tire, you have flat tires. So I was like, oh. So I pulled into the dark alley. Of course, it had to be an alley, and it had to be dark. Even though it was evening, it wasn't nighttime quite yet. And I pulled in, and I got out of my car to look at, what tire is flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this guy approach me, and I thought, okay, I don't have any flat tires, and we're in a dark alley, and he's going to assault me. There was no question. No question. And for anyone who's has foreknowledge of an inevitable assault, it's a dreadful place to be.
Yeah.
That way. And all of a sudden, something came over me where I felt like I was the angel. And as he approached me with the worst intents, I just felt like I became an angel. And I loved him, and I began to speak to him.
Oh,
and I
wow.
said, God loves you so much. I just kept saying that. God loves you so much. And I was filled with love, and I loved him. And he got the full blast of that angelic feeling of love. And he stopped in his tracks. And I had the sense that he had not felt loved in a long time, if ever. Wow. It was something so new and so good for him.
Wow. He
just stopped. And so then I just opened my car door, got in, and drove off and left him there like this, like I'm used to being.
Wow.
But back to God loves everybody. I have a funny story if we have time. Another time I felt like an angel. It was in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Actually, with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, back to that.
Okay.
I told you she brought me on stage a lot. So she was there for a big convention, and I was her opening act, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But my husband was off teaching her how to gamble. And I went into the restroom, and there was a woman on the floor, a hot mess. I would say she was a woman of the night, if I may just, and miserable and crying, all crumpled up on this bathroom floor. And I responded to her. And by the way, I was wearing all white, and I had this gold and white shiny shawl.
Oh, wow.
So that I kind of probably looked like an angel. And I bent over her and asked if I could help. And she looked up and said, "Are you an angel?" And I said, "Yes."
Wow.
Because in that moment I was.
Yeah.
And she needed to get the heck out of Dodge. And she wanted to go home. She lived in Tennessee. She said, I'm in trouble here. And I can't even leave this restroom without being watched. And she was in trouble. So I left with her, got her to the train station, So I wasn't going to give her money.
Yeah.
That would not have been in her pocket for very
Right.
long.
Yeah.
And saw that she was safely on the train and waved goodbye. And she, I'm sure, is off telling everyone that she had an angel encounter.
Yeah.
She did. It was me.
Well, an angel's a messenger from God. So yeah, we're right.
There you go.
We could
That's
all,
see, again, good words, Brian. You're
yeah,
just doing it for me today.
we could all be angels in a certain respect. So I want to ask you.
I got to say one more thing. I have
Mhm.
a lot of patients who also thought I was an angel because my hair was
Mhm.
filled with Farrah. This is how my hair goes. And
Uh,
it's shorter. It's, Farrah Fawcett had these angel wing hairdos. And in my hospital whites and my blonde angel hair, leaning over a patient with the lights behind me, many times I was asked if I was an angel.
Interesting.
But except for that one time in the bathroom, and then the other time with the guy, I would just say, no, I'm your social worker.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you a couple more questions. One is, how do you use your angel experiences to help people that are in grief?
Oh, well, I think I've already done it here, even. Just telling stories
Mhm.
and assuring people that we are not alone. We may not be able to perceive anything, but there is not a human being on this planet that is unattended. And that whatever the course of life is, what we have contracted, whatever your philosophy is about why we were born. And it just brought up another children's angel story in my head. I have so many stories, Brian. But anyway, that we are guided, we are protected. Sometimes, though, this is what I'm sharing you what I tell people.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are some angels, their job is to stick their angel foot out and trip us so that we can learn to get up, hopefully,
Mm.
on our own. So angels have functions. I don't believe in praying to an angel. If people say, can I talk to my angels? My advice is no, talk to God.
Mm.
And God will provide what you need in your life in
Okay.
terms of your awarenesses and your sensitivities and your comfort. And I don't know why I say that. I just kind of.
Well, I think that's an interesting point you bring. Because some people do deify angels, and I hear people, especially people talk about the archangels, Michael and Gabriel and stuff like that. And I think the people do tend to maybe pray to these beings. So that's an interesting point.
I like to leave it up to what I call God.
Yeah.
Because there's other invisibilities too. There are deceased loved ones. That's a whole other show, Brian.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. We'll have to do another episode because I want to talk to you about that.
So there's all kinds of ways to provide comfort, and because of that groundedness that I reintroduce myself with, I can come across as authentic if I choose to, and grounded.
Yeah, being grounded is overrated because the idea of being grounded, it's like there's grounded and then there's woo-woo, and that's just not the case. It's just these realms you're talking about are an extension of the realm that we all live in that most of us can't perceive most of the time, but it's very, very real.
It's a vision too, it's some people can see things.
Yes.
That other people can't all the time. An artist can see the art before it's completed, for instance. A meteorologist can read the weather.
Yeah.
We're perceiving things all the time at such a rapid rate. So why not invisibilities?
Yeah. Well, and they're invisible to our normal vision. So, we can only see a very small percentage of the light spectrum anyway. I mean, a very small percentage. So it's quite possible that they're just operating in a frequency that we can't perceive with our normal eyes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're good. Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, I think that we entertain angels as well. I think it's possible to crack an angel up. I can't tell you why I think so, but I think there is loving humor involved too. Like, I don't know. I just know they're all around us. They seem to have different jobs. in my perception, they're big, but I have a stepdaughter who in middle school was with her birth mom, rest in peace, but she was had a big fight with her mom and run upstairs to her bedroom, and she said that she looked at her bedroom window on the second floor, and there was this huge angel looking in the window, standing on the ground. She freaked out. But then the room was filled with like little angel babies that she said like little cherubs. And the room got filled, and she was so at peace. All the anger and frustration that she'd had with this big fight with her mom, and junior high age female, do the math, a lot of drama, a lot of feelings and all that. It just completely went away. She was calm and felt loved. She grew up to go to the Marine Corps. She's had 3 deployments, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. She knows she's surrounded by angels. So here's now someone who grew up to be a tough Marine, and yet knew because of that experience in junior high that there were angels around her. And although she hasn't perceived them, of course, she's never forgotten it. And it's helped her on a battlefield 3 times. Fallujah was one of them.
Wow.
If, that was a huge Marine battle in Iraq. So it's just comforting. So that's to answer your question in a very roundabout way. I just tell people stories, and they believe me or they don't. It matters not, but it does bring comfort.
Yeah, I think so. It does bring up, and it's a tough question that I know you don't have the answer to, because I work with a lot of people whose children have transitioned, and they'll be like, well, why did this person get an angel to step in and stop this accident from happening, but my loved one didn't? And that's a question that I think people often ask when we say we're protected. But I guess for me to answer my own question, I think that we all have to leave this world at some point. So at some point, their angel may be there to take us home.
Yeah. At the recent virtual conference for the International Association for Near-Death Studies was a keynote speaker by the name of Anita Morjani. And she talks about exit points. That's one thing she learned in her near-death experience. We go through life. We can exit here, exit there. And we're making unconscious decisions sometimes. About, well, we're going to exit or we're going to keep on the highway. But I'm reminded of another angel story. I could just build a little campfire and keep you here all night.
There you go.
And I wouldn't mind. But speaking of car accidents, this was an adult in a terrible car accident in a place called Bellevue, Washington, which is east of our city. And this made the papers because it was a 7-car pileup.
Wow. And
all but 2 people died. So mass casualties, big response, big headlines in the paper. Well, this guy finds his way to the Seattle International Association for Near-Death Studies, Seattle IANDS, which I lead, and said that he shared his story. We all remember the incident, but he said that while he was injured, but while he was in his crunched up car, he could look out and he saw tubes of light going to infinity coming out of every single vehicle, but his car and another car that had a woman in it. And within those columns of light were angels taking people out and up through this tube of light to someplace up there. And it turns out they were the only survivors of the accident. They both lived.
That's extremely comforting, and I think that's something that everybody can take with that we're never alone, as you said. And for people whose loved ones may have transitioned, and we wonder, okay, did they die alone? Were they okay? Were they comfortable? Were they comforted? Were they scared? I think that answers all those questions.
Yeah, I would say on a spiritual level, not at all.
Yeah,
they were comforted. So were the bereaved. But in her bereavement, like me bent over crying, when a woman in Hawaii was having a vision of, these maternal kind of angels floating around and enveloping me with light, we may not be aware of it in our grief,
Right.
but they're there for us. And
Yeah.
they love us.
Yeah.
They love us.
Yeah. That I think it's a great way to end. I really I enjoy talking to you. We could do this all day, so I really appreciate you doing this. It's very it's comforting for people to know. So, anything you want to say before we close?
God bless you and keep you, and may angels watch over you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Brian.
Bye. That's it for another episode of Grief to Growth. I sure hope you got something out of it. Please stay in contact with me by reaching out at www.grieftogrowth.com. That's grief, the number 2, growth.com. Or you can text the word growth to 31996. That's simply text growth, GROWTH, to 31996. Since you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed. So hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell here, and it'll notify you when I have new content. Always, please share the information if you enjoy it. That helps me to get more views and to get the message out to more people. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.